After studying this module, you shall be able to know the meaning of the term family, understand the current family dynamics, identify the impact of living with family on the elderly, apply this knowledge to appreciate the role of family, evaluate the downside of living with family for elderly. Families are the cornerstone of all human societies which have been discovered in the human culture. Family as a social institution is closest to us, and its influence can be felt in our everyday lives by Morgan and Kunkel in 2006. It is a place where a person finds and expects the most encouragement, comfort and security and help if needed. Family is an important element of society and serves several important functions. Family plays an essential role in childhood as it does in old age. Families are resilient and resourceful groups that connect a person to the past and to the future in personally meaningful ways. By Morgan et al. In 2006. The importance of family arises with advancing age as elderly need more support and help in their later life. Research shows that older people in almost all cultural settings prefer to be in their own homes and communities by WHO in 2011. Family life with all the support and help it provides is the key to a fulfilling and long life. As one gets older, home and family become more and more central to his or her life and completely surround it. This module delineates the role of family in various aspects of life for the elderly. Understanding family. Definition and its meaning. Family is a social unit in which members live in a close association with their kin. Family is known to support its members in terms of basic necessities such as food, shelter and companionship. Various definitions of family are: family is a group of persons united by the ties of marriage, blood or adoption, consisting of a single household, interacting and intercommunicating with each other in their respective social roles of husband and wife, mother and father, son and daughter, brother and sister, creating a common culture. By Burgess and Locke. Davis defined family, a group of persons whose relations to one another are based upon consanguinity and who are therefore kin to another. Family is a miniature social organization including at least 2 generations and is characteristically formed upon the blood bond. By Sumner and Keller. Current family dynamics. Life expectancy has increased in most countries. Consequently, several generations are alive at the same time. However, although the number of living generations in a family may have increased, today these generations are more likely to live separately. In many nations, the changing social norms, increasing rates of migrations, remarriage and divorce, economic security and blended and step family relations shape the family unit. In many countries including India, the percentage of older people who are living alone has risen. Living alone was being characterized as social isolation or abandoning the family. But research findings show that older people desire to live in their homes and communities, even if it means living alone, as it is reinforced with greater longevity, elder-friendly housing, increased home ownership, expanded social benefits, and an emphasis in the many countries on community care. However, the ultimate impacts of the changing family patterns on the health of the elderly are unknown. Older people who live alone are less likely to gain from sharing goods that are available in a family, and the risk of falling into poverty in older age may increase as the size of the family falls. On the other hand, older people are also viewed as an essential resource for the younger generation, and their absence may create an additional workload for the younger family members. Family life at times require caring for a sick family member who is devoid of self-caring capabilities, such as caring for the seriously ill member or caring for the younger members such as an infant, which are considered the situation of inevitable necessity. But these family obligations are permeated with satisfaction of freedom, that is voluntary commitments. For example, a grandmother is satisfied to take care of her grandson, provided that the care is not too exhaustive or too lengthy. Piotrowski and his group of gerontologists in 1986 did a deeper study of the families to understand dynamics of families with elderly members, and it showed the coexistence of different family types, from small to traditional, big ones in different environments. In the past few decades, deep socio-economic, political and cultural transformations have been made that have left their mark on the changes in the family in the direction of making it nuclear. Among others, the system of intergeneration relations has gone a massive change in the current social scenario. Tradition, customs and habits simultaneously inhibit the changes of these relations. Studies show that close relationship with the family of the elderly definitely outnumber the other types of relations. Many of the elderly live together with their children or close to them. Many also run the households together and appreciate their relationship with co-residing children and other household members. If elderly people live alone, it is almost a rule that at least one of their children lives close by or visits and helps them. This contradicts the theory of a small family isolation and isolation of elderly parents from children. Most elderly people not only live alone but also run a household together with children and their families. Often in terms of cohabitation of old and young, cooperation and mutual help is spontaneously born, and it becomes of such proportions that it is difficult to say whether this is a common household management or cohabitation. Intergenerational contacts are the densest in the case of cohabitation, in which members of many generations live together. In the case of the elderly living together with children, there are two structures. Either elderly people give the children dwelling in their house, or children take old parents to their apartment. Elderly people and their children maintain close contacts with one another even if they do not live together, but only close to one another. The frequency of contact of the elderly with the family is affected by the proximity of residence. Staying close to each other or living together and maintaining frequent contacts, the elderly and their children provide vitally important services and support for one another. For the elderly, they are not only of financial importance but are especially important as they are of high emotional value, including the expression of memory, intimacy, respect and cordiality. Role of family in the elderly. Whether they live with their families or separately, elders have a central place and role in the family, by Guven in 2006. For elders, family is the major social and psychological support system. In the times of need, especially during chronic illness or crisis, the demand may even exceed in everyday life of old people. Family provides care to the elderly people. They assist and help in variety of physical tasks such as bathing, dressing, feeding them and giving medication, by Morgan et al. In 2006. They can provide basic care to elderly as care provider. A number of roles have been identified which a family can play in the life of the elderly. These range from providing basic care to assisting in their everyday life. Family provides different forms of care and support, including advocacy. These are especially important for older adults with mental health history, disabilities and those residing in nursing home. Family support influences the care individuals receive when living in nursing homes. Family members are most concerned and ensure that best possible quality care is provided to the elderly in order to promote their well-being. It means to supportive roles of family result in quality care. Thus, family support is an important source of care, assistance and advocacy, which results in better care for nursing home residents. Older adults also prefer to spend time with their family as opposed to their acquaintances. Research suggests that when time is perceived as limited, individuals prefer social networks comprised of family members and formal resources that can provide meaningful interaction and assistance. By Fram in 2009. Lack of social support causes loneliness, which results in poor medical outcomes. Social network of family and friends buffer stress and promote well-being, thus reducing loneliness. Therefore, social support of family is also important to improve the quality of life of elderly. The way to enhance social support is to involve family members actively in the care of their relatives. For participation of family in elderly care, family visit is vital even in case the elderly live in elderly homes. Frequent visits and keeping in touch through mail or telephonic ensures that the family concerns themselves for the elderly and is of significance for the elderly. Familial support and care giving among generations usually is a two-way, in that the elderly often provide care for most of the family, spouse, children, elderly parents and grandchildren, as well as non-family members and the family, and especially the adults in the family are a source of support and care for the elderly. However, the worldwide trend of having fewer children may lead to less potential care and support for the elderly from their families in the future. The role of family health. Many of the elderly people at later stages of their lives lose their ability to live independently because of limited mobility, ill health or other declines in physical and or cognitive functioning. Many of them would need some kind of long-term care, which can include home nursing, residential care, community care and assisted living and long stay in hospitals. The family members can provide support and care for the elderly, not only physical but also mentally, which helps in improving the quality of life for the elderly. As we know, loneliness is a threat for the elder members of the society, as the friend or spouse may no longer be there during that age. Hence, they need to be supported and taken care of both physically and mentally. Living with the family members would help the elderly as they would have people around them, although they may be the younger generations, that is, their children and grandchildren. As old age is accompanied with major decline in physical capacities as well as many health problems, it becomes difficult and even risky for the elderly to live alone or away from the family. In such situation, the role of family is enhanced towards the physical well-being of the elderly. The family members readily come in handy for frequent visits to the hospital in case of diseases or injuries. They can provide immediate support and care in case of medical emergencies, such as heart attacks, stroke, etc., which might prove fatal in case of elderly, if not taken care of on an urgent basis. This often happens in the case of elderly individual is living alone or away from the family. Psychological or social support. Being a part of a family, the elderly will have various responsibilities, and these responsibilities help the elderly to increase their sense of purpose and consequently increase their quality of life. They will feel needed, appreciated and loved, irrespective of their responsibilities being big or small. These responsibilities can vary from doing small household chores such as chopping vegetable for cooking or small task activities, while laundering or supporting financially or supporting the family members mentally, such as listening to their problems and sharing from their life experiences for helping them take informed decisions. All the contributions of the elderly, whether big or small, to the functioning of the family helps them feel useful part of the family, and more importantly, gives them a feeling that they are returning the support they are receiving from the family. This feeling of a sense of purpose is important for the elderly to enhance their sense of self-worth and self-esteem. Interaction with grandchildren. One of the major components of being a part of the family for the elderly is teaching the younger generation. As we know, life is a series of experiences, and these experiences help humans to learn. And we not only learn from our lives, but we also teach, and the other younger generation not only benefits from the knowledge and experiences of their parents, but also their grandparents. So being able to impart their knowledge and experiences to their grandchildren helps the elderly to feel a sense of purpose in their lives, which ultimately helps them to improve their as well as the other family members' quality of life. However, it should be noted that the generation gap between the youngest generation, children, teens and young adults, and the elderly members of the family may lead to difficulties and misunderstandings between the two generations. Therefore, both the generations need to make an effort so as to reduce it, to ensure that this generation gap does not result in severe loss of mental peace for both of them. Security and recognition. Family is an essential social group for the elderly to whom they are tied by strong emotional bond and mutual exchange of benefits. However, the Penter survey reveals that people now openly admit that they do not intend to take care of their elderly parents. And observations in daily life also suggest that the number of such people is increasing. Circumstances of lack of support for elderly people by their family environment are continuously on the increase. On the other hand, it is known that the need for acceptance, support, empathy and love from the families increases in the old age. In the old age, the social circle shrinks mainly to relationships with family, especially with the spouse, children, grandchildren or siblings, because these relations are of great importance to the quality of life and its assessment. The ability to participate in family life, even regular family meetings, mutual assistance and exchange of different types of services gives the older person not only direct satisfaction that comes from the meeting, the need for warmth or kindness, but also a sense of security and recognition of their position in the family and society. In popular opinion, all of it is used to and could be ensured by the traditional big family, especially peasant or largely artisanal, which was unified by the source of income formed by family-run workshops. Effects of living without family on the elderly. There are many important implications for the elderly not living in immediate vicinity of the family. These implications are not always negative. The elderly people most often express desire to live away from the family by choice, especially in the Western countries. With the changing social scenario, this trend is fast catching up in the Eastern countries too, including India. This is more often an urban trend. The traditional or rural families still prefer to have their elderly members live with them. This section discusses various ways on how living without family affects the elderly. Having a personal freedom. Everybody values independence. In considering the elderly, it can be safely asserted that after working tirelessly for many years in their professional life, where the freedom they enjoyed was limited due to work pressures, they would now want to enjoy their time once they retire and most probably do the things they were not able to do before retirement, such as remodeling their house, traveling to new places, reading, etc. And also they no longer are responsible for taking care of their children, so they can act according to their wishes. Living with their family, they would be expected to take care of their grandchildren or take up other chores or responsibilities, and this would hold them back, which might prove to be detrimental for their mental health if it severely impacts their plans for themselves. However, of course, this may not hold true for people who suffer from chronic illnesses. Moreover, financial resources to live such carefree life is not easily available to everyone. Also, in today's generation, personal space or privacy is essential. The elders living with the family may result in lack of privacy for all the family members. Although human beings are social beings, but everybody needs their personal space as well as time. So the generation gap between the younger and older generations leads to different needs and hence may result in conflicts and misunderstandings. On a different note, losing privacy is subjective and not all members may consider a reduced personal space to be an important sacrifice when compared to what all they are gaining from living with the family. Moreover, having elder family members may increase privacy for parents as the elder members can babysit their grandchildren. Hence, giving the husband and the wife some quality time together to maintain their relationship. So overall, the detrimental effect of losing privacy on mental health may be compensated by a feeling of increased sense of purpose by taking care of their grandchildren. Hence, it maintains a balance in their life. Personal freedom and independence that is relished by the elderly have few opposite sides. In some parts of the world, especially in individualistic cultures, people are known to become too individualistic that they begin to care less about each other and their family members. So this puts the elderly at risk of depression or loneliness and they may suffer from more serious disabilities. Being self-sufficient. Another trait that is relished by the elderly is being self-sufficient. Self-sufficient means that the elderly may be able to manage their own affairs with least help from others. Hence, the need to live with the family and other caregivers is reduced. This gives elderly self-confidence, which consequently leads to be increased feelings of self-worth. And self-worth has been understood as an important component of mental health. Therefore, self-sufficiency may lead to better mental health. The advantages and disadvantages of living with or without family have been considered, but one important part of the topic is elderly feeling like a burden to their family members. Hence, it is considered in detail here. Downside of living with family. When elderly share the house with younger generation, they may feel like they are burdened to the house. It is especially the case when they are suffering from illness that prevents them from being an active member of the household. For example, they may feel they are financially burdening their children. Example, if they require expensive medications for their treatment. Occupying space in a small house or are hogging a lot of time and effort for the children. Example, in case of chronic illnesses where the patients require long-term care that may become too exhaustive. This feeling of being a burden for the family members may cause stress to the elderly and he or she may have feelings of unhappiness. And if it's not addressed properly by the family members, it may lead to depression, which is detrimental for the mental health of the elderly as well as their family members. Considering all the aspects of living with family, feeling like a burden is the most serious issue faced by the elderly. Society is evolving continuously and is not static. This evolution can conflict with traditional values. With traditions being less strict adhered to, elderly who are taken care by of their children or grandchildren know that it is based on a genuine willingness to care for them instead of avoiding a social stigma. However, attention is required to safeguard the most vulnerable, including our elderly in our changing world. However, all the mentioned positives of living with the family may seem futile if the elderly has the feeling of being a burden to the family. Being a burden weighs heavily on people, decreases mental health and self-worth, and therefore decreases quality of life for the person. And the feeling of being a burden is not just avoided by elderly, but by everybody. Though the elderly may be willing to go to the farthest level to avoid being a burden to the family, they will actively deny taking help from the family members. And as to maintain their independence as much as possible, they choose to live in retirement or nursing homes rather than turning to their family for support. Another limiting factor that is important is finances. As they retire, their finances decreases and they may experience a sense of financial insecurity. Hence, it may be a problematic aspect that consequently leads to them feeling like a burden to the family and hence decreasing their mental health. Summary: family is a social unit in which members live in close association with their kin. Family is known to support its members in terms of basic necessities such as food, shelter and companionship. Life expectancy has increased in most countries. Consequently, several generations are alive at the same time. However, although the number of living generations in a family may have increased today, these generations are more likely to live separately. A number of important roles have been identified which a family plays in the life of the elderly. These range from providing basic care to assisting in the everyday life. The major areas where family have a role to play in the life of the elderly include health, psychological and social support, interaction with children and grandchildren, as well as security and recognition. Some of the elderly prefer to live away from the family with the implication that they can also enjoy their personal freedom and continue to feel self-sufficient. The downside of living with the family is that the elderly sometimes may feel like they are the burden to the house. It is especially the case when they are suffering from illness that prevents them from being an active member of the household or in financial terms.